I was distracted. I was distracted because I just found out that the death toll in Turkey and Syria has risen to almost 50,000 people. And so today we discuss, what is our obligation as Jews to help? Hey everybody. Hey Rabbi Litwak.
Hello, Rabbi David. How you doing?
I'm okay. I really was. I wasn't expecting that number. I guess I had heard 20,000, 30,000, and now they're saying it's this. Of course, sorry. Let me back up here. This, of course, is from the earthquake, the aftermath of the earthquake, and the Turkish Interior Minister raised the number of fatalities in Turkey alone to 43,556. And the combined death toll stands at 47,000. I mean, it's just unimaginable numbers. And I was not surprised at all, and so proud to hear that Israel was amongst many nations to send help right away. We sent both United Hatzalah left, and the IDF, the United Hatzalah went in, the IDF sent rescue efforts, and then I was so sad to hear that they both had to suspend their help efforts because of civil unrest and non-specific threats and things like that. So I thought maybe we jump in today to talk a little bit about why did we go in, right? What is our obligation? Turkey and Syria, these are not our friends. So to what extent do we need to help? And maybe by extension, and you and I hadn't discussed this before, but to what extent do we need to help when it may bring risk to us? Like, these non-specific threats over in Turkey and Syria. Where do you want to start, Rabbi?
Well, let me start by acknowledging what I started with on Friday, because I kind of primed the pump here and shared a little bit of my thoughts at Shabbat services, in saying that I had to be honest in my own feelings that because Turkey and Israel have been contentious with each other, and certainly Syria, which remains technically in a state of war with Israel, that I didn't feel sort of the com- I didn't feel compelled to help, and it bothered me.
Yeah.
And so the question that you started with was, am I obligated to help? Like you, I was proud that Israel went in, and sad when they had to pull out. So I wanted to go to Jewish tradition, and in fact, there's a Talmudic piece that literally talks about um, when a mapolet, and a mapolet, in this case, they use it as a rock slide, but it can be a collapsed building. All right, falls on somebody, and in this case, they're questioning whether we can deal with this on Shabbat, because of course Shabbat, you're not supposed to work, and so um, it, here, okay, they're asking a series of questions. And they ask, and generally there are three questions when it comes to that need to be asked when it concerns if somebody's possibly buried in the rubble. One, is the person there at all? Okay. Um, the second is he or she alive? Okay. And then if we get to it, all right, and this is the hard one, all
Yeah.
right, is this a Jew, all right, or a goy, someone who is not Jewish, okay? And let's get it out there right at the beginning, okay? So we're gonna get to the point, okay, that Judaism does say, regardless of whether somebody is Jewish or not, okay, that you are obligated to assist. You're obligated to break Shabbat. So let's get that right out there at the
Can,
beginning.
can I
Okay?
just throw out, Rabbi? I was teaching yesterday a class, and we were looking at the morning brachot, the morning blessings, and the
Mhm.
traditional ones versus the sort of the order and the version that the conservative movement uses, and then what we have in Mishkan Tefillah in the Reform Siddur. And as soon as you look at the traditional version, Shalo Asani Goy, thank you God for not making me a Jew. e-
Not
Even
making me a
even
non-Jew.
not sorry, not make. Thank you God for not making me a non-Jew. Even if you can understand it, even if the ending is yes, we have to break Shabbat to say, the question itself is so uncomfortable for us today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and and there's where I felt my own discomfort in looking at this. So we
But wait,
yeah.
sorry. I don't know if this is going to make you feel better, and I don't mean to cut you off, but there's a you said at the beginning that this isn't the struggle. I think I'm reading into what you said at the beginning. The struggle, if I had been in your shoes, would not have been I'm a Jew and they're not Jewish. It's they don't like me and they want me dead.
Yes, and we're going to
Okay.
come to that.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Okay.
I think you're absolutely right. Okay, that'll be we'll call it our third text
Gotcha.
for the day. So we have this from tractate Talmudic tractate Yoma 83a. Um, and then if we continue a couple of pages later, um, all right, so it says that we're supposed to help clear the rubble. Okay, but then there's a question of how far do we have to go? Okay, if we find out that the person is dead, right, then am I obligated to continue unburying him? Right? And so they ask, all right, if there's a person who's collapsed, okay, at what point, to what point is one obligated to continue to find out whether they're alive. And I think it's interesting that right, there's one opinion that says right, up until his nose, so you can see is he breathing from his nose, okay? And that is if there's no sign of life, all right, then in other words, he's not breathing, right, then we can say he's dead. All right. Now some say, hey, it's up until his heart. All right. And then what's interesting is that we don't know when a building comes down, we don't know who's there. Okay. And is it possible for us to say, well, you know what? The people at the top are dead. Okay? There's no way that anybody below them is alive. So if the people at the top are dead, then we stop. And they don't. And the Talmud says you're not allowed to do that.
Mm.
Right? And I think that there's something very powerful about this. That whether somebody is considered, and I'm taking this in a very spiritual way, right? Whether somebody is a Jew or a non-Jew, somebody who follows the laws, who doesn't follow the laws, somebody who is on a higher spiritual plane, all right, and somebody who's on a lower spiritual plane, that we don't get to make that decision about whether we're going to help them or not. Okay? That it doesn't matter who they are. Nobody is beyond hope until we are absolutely clear, right, that they are deceased.
It is interesting to me. This is a bit of an aside, but the I'm not sure if I'm stretching this too much, but going from breathing to heartbeat. I mean, this is just reminding me of my CPR training. It's that the Talmud is so, we can learn. Yeah, we can learn sort of the basics of medicine, if you will, from this little text here. That first you check the nose, and then you check the heart, and
right.
And it's also stunning that two pieces here. One is how the Talmud is so quick to say it doesn't matter if they're Jewish. It doesn't matter. This doesn't matter if it's a human being. So it doesn't actually say that, but it's saying it's a human being. Have compassion. And then the second piece is that hope is a Jewish value. It seems to me,
sure.
right? That that even if you might say, if the upper ones are dead, the ones below are definitely dead, you should not say that. You have to have hope.
Right. Yeah. And the Mishnah Torah makes this clear. All right. Even if you can't detect any breathing, breath from the nose, or you can't feel a heartbeat, that you're still obligated
Really?
to continue burying. Unburying somebody. And I think that is really speaks to what you just said, that this is a human being beyond anything else.
I wonder that also seems to be, or I wonder if these texts could be instructive as we make determinations about when does search and rescue end, and I'm not sure what the other term is. Forgive me, but when you're no longer looking to save people, you're
right.
recovery. When how do you know to draw that line? According to this text, it seems to me that you sort of don't. You keep working.
Right. And what was so amazing, and the reason why the Israelis, and for that matter, all of the other countries that sent rescue missions had to pull out was because the locals had been told by the government was going to suspend any
Mm.
attempt to find anyone. And then after that, okay, 10 days after the collapse, okay, they find somebody alive.
Right.
Okay, so right there, in Technicolor,
Mm.
we have the reason to keep going. So let's go and let's address kind of the underlying issue. We have a text from Leviticus 19:16. Okay, the text from Leviticus 19:16. Okay, it says, "Don't profit by the blood of your fellow. Don't stand by the blood of your fellow." Okay, that is to say, okay, we're not allowed to um, either profit off of somebody who's a Jew, right? Or we're not allowed to, as it says, you're not allowed to deal basely with Jews. We're supposed to treat the Jewish people, right, kindly, right?
You're okay. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Then the
the
question
the
becomes,
Jew, right,
okay, what if somebody isn't
right.
considered your brother, okay, or
Why
somebody?
is yeah? So in here it translates re'echa as
Uh-huh.
Israelite. Oh, I mean, it doesn't translate that. Sorry. This is sort of a, I guess, maybe a
Yeah, your
commentary on
fellow.
this.
Okay, the
So what
fellow
is yeah,
reacha would be somebody who's in your, in your community, right? And at least when it comes to the biblical way of understanding that, that would be fellow Jews,
right.
right? But let's just we know this text, right? I'm asking the bigger question of what about somebody who is not a reacha, right? Who's not considered within your community, and that's where we get to, I think, the most instructive text. You
Before
want
we
to
get to that,
go
sorry,
ahead?
before we get to, I just want to say out loud, probably for myself, I've read this. Lo Talmud al Dam Reach. I mean, I could quote that in my sleep. I've read this so many times. I've never once thought of Re'echa as just a fellow Jew. Never once. And that's probably because although I know the text and I've said it so many times, I've never really studied it deeply. I've always understood that as thinking universally.
And I think that you and I come from a milieu of reacha being something larger
Right.
than Jewish people. You and I are both comfortable with that. But let's just read it literally,
Yeah.
and then struggle with it literally. All
Yep.
right. And the question becomes, does Judaism provide any wisdom regarding my responsibility to help people who are not? Right. And here's where you teed me up nicely to say, right, it's not just people who are not my reecha, right, but people who actually hate me, right? Maybe Turkey we can put aside, but Syria, right? I wouldn't want to go walking around Syria, right, as a Jew, right? And so we have a text from Exodus 23. Right? What is Hashavat Avedah, the returning of the donkey of your enemy? Okay? When you encounter, it's not just your neighbor. Right? Here they're specific. Right? Oivecha, right? Is, right, somebody who is literally your enemy. Okay? When we encounter your enemy's ox or ass wandering, you have to take it back, and then the next one,
Wait,
the next
wait, wait,
one.
wait, wait, wait. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
It, this is why I love doing this. This is why, for any of you who don't study regularly, this is why it's so rich, because I'm, again, this is text I know so well, and I'm seeing things in it and learning things from you that I've never thought of. The question that popped into my head was, to whom is this an act of kindness? This returning of the donkey, is it an act of kindness to the oivecha, to your enemy, or is it an act of kindness to the
Hamor.
donkey, right, to the chamor? And the connection I made thinking about Turkey and Syria was that, let's forgive the analogy, but in
Yeah.
the donkey in the analogy are the people of
Are the
Turkey
people
and
themselves.
Syria, and the
Right.
excuse me, the oivecha is the government. And so, if this can be instructive in that the when you see this, first of all, the act of kindness is to the donkey; it's to the people, and secondly,
But,
we cannot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's not true. Okay, because if the enemy's ox or ass is wandering, okay, and they're in trouble or they don't have food, why don't I just take the enemy's ox and ass and bring them into my camp, okay, take care of them,
Mm,
okay, make sure that they're okay? Why
right.
do I have to actually, excuse me, return it to my enemy?
Right.
Okay, I
Okay,
love
that's
I
fair.
love the idea, and I hadn't thought about it that way. You've got the enemy, and you've got the ox and the ass, or the people and the government. That's a really interesting way to look at it. But I think that we're still benefiting, okay, our enemy.
Yeah.
Okay? And
It,
for
it,
what
it,
it's worth, I think, like, if we read it the way you wanted to read it, that's the reason why, very quietly, when Syrian children or Syrian individuals need medical assistance, they make it across the border,
mm,
and Israel takes care of them,
right.
right? In their hospitals,
Yep.
as if they were citizens.
Mm.
Right? They're not allowed to. They can't say it. They can't even. God forbid they could be found out. Right? Syrians would kill them.
That's a
Right?
much better example of what you said about an act of kindness toward the animal would be to take it in. And so the act of kindness toward the children or the people of Syria is to take them in, literally
That's
to our
right.
hospitals. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got that, and then the very next verse, similar. I when and here's where you would be helping the individual. Okay, when you see the ass of your enemy lying under its burden, it's over extended, it's weighed down, okay, and it can't get up. Right? Yes, you have to help it. Right? So in this case, maybe this is the one of
Right.
Syrian children. Hey, regardless, we've got these two verses from
So,
Exodus
can I just
23.
point out one other difference? And I wonder if this matters. But up here, it's oivecha,
Mm-hmm.
your enemy, and down here it's well, it
Yeah,
says son na'acha
yeah,
here, but I think it's
yeah,
sonecha. Um,
yeah.
those who hate
Who
you,
hate you? Right, right.
which
And that's
to,
where I think it just puts an extra punch
I agree.
into and why this text is such a great text for us today as we're discussing this, because just looking at somebody who's a human being and saying, I got to take care of a human being. Okay, we get it. Uh, and but having somebody who hates us, that's a whole nother level.
But
Right?
I could argue again, if we want to make the distinction between government and people, that the government is our enemy. They teach their people to hate us. And so on a couple of different levels, we have a responsibility not well, what if we follow your thinking, which I think you're absolutely right, we have a responsibility not only to the government who educates and trains their people to hate us, and we have an obligation to show kindness to the people themselves who learn that hate and then
Right.
live that hate sometimes. I'm
Um,
not generalizing, it's certainly not all of them.
so here's where I landed last Friday. and that is if we think about Christianity. Christianity says we have to love our enemy, and Judaism doesn't say that. Judaism doesn't require that we love or even feel good. Right? What Judaism says is you have to do right by your enemy. Right? You have to, right, return their donkey. And in some way, I think that teaches, on some level, right, we have a responsibility no matter what. Right?
Can I go back to that word re'echa that you said? Because when you were just teaching that, let me see if I can. Here it is. Al dam re'echa. You were the first verse that popped in my head was ve'ahavta lo re'echa kamocha. When you said we're not obligated to love our enemy, we're not. We're obligated to love fellow Jews. Again, if that word re'echa is, your fellow person, and that's awfully striking, actually, and a real difference between the way Christianity, I think, has interpreted that command and the way we have interpreted that command. And of course, you and I, as we do here, we extend ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha to include everyone. But being medakdek, being really careful about the text, I think you're right. It's fascinating that love must extend to our neighbors, to our community. Help, kindness, support must extend even to our enemies and those who hate us.
Right. Yeah. And there's where I actually want to finish, because the question that I was challenged by is, okay, I'm obligated to help, right? That's clear, right? We said it right from the beginning, right? But to what degree?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to reframe the question to say, am I allowed to prioritize? Right? And in general, right, actually in Judaism, poor family members are always given precedence over the poor in the wider community when it comes to tzedakah, when it comes to giving to those in need. Right? And we learn that in another verse, which I didn't cue you up on, which is Exodus 22:24, which says that when you lend money to my people, to the poor with you, don't be to him like a creditor. Okay, don't take interest. So this is referring to somebody who, there you go, how about that? Thank you. Okay. Give you enough time, you can cue it up. Right? It refers to somebody who needs to help a needy person through an interest-free loan. Okay, and the Talmud infers from the poor with you, okay, that we give precedence to those who are literally with you, meaning those who are closest to you, physically, or for that matter, emotionally. Family first, then neighbors. We are allowed to prioritize, okay? But, even those who wind up further down the list, it doesn't knock them off the list. We're obligated to help even those we don't like. Okay? And this idea of Hashavat Avedah, of returning the donkey of my enemy, it's so easy for us to say, forget it. Okay? I don't. They don't love me. They don't like me. They hate me. Right? Why should I help them? Because I think Judaism asks us to go beyond the human inclination to think in tribal terms. Okay? It's so easy for us to just, I only care about those who are closest to me, okay? And those outside. Okay? I don't have to give. Right? I can't give equally to everybody. It's impossible.
This piece of Gemara that you just mentioned, I just pulled it up. It's actually a fascinating piece of Gemara. I know it's really small on the page, about the prioritizing. It's
Yeah.
really, really
Can
interesting.
you make it larger?
It's Bava Metzia. It's one of my people, so a Jew and a Gentile, poor and rich, poor of your city versus poor of another city.
Right.
But it's I mean, for me, the takeaway here is that it's a prioritization. It's not a choice. So that is to say, even if, God forbid, a million times there was an earthquake in Israel and an earthquake in Turkey, yes, my first responsibility is to my fellow people in Israel,
Hmm.
and my second responsibility is to my fellow human in Turkey.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's where I, I still struggle, right? But I feel good, right? That I'm a part of a religious tradition that sees humanity
Mm.
as being valuable, no matter whether you believe in our system or not.
Yeah. Amen.
So,
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful Torah today. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
No, thank you.
Um, and we're coming
Hey,
close
we
to
got Purim, man.
I was just gonna say we're coming close to Purim. Yeah, next week is crazy week here at in the preschool. So I'll be getting dressed up every day. But what are we doing for Purim this year?
So we are. I am really excited. This is going to be a wonderful Purim, Arab Purim on Monday, March 5th, 6th. We are gathering, and we are going to uh, have the Megillah illustrated right before our eyes. The Megillah is the only scroll that we're allowed to illustrate, and our own Susie Oken, who's a wonderful individual and an artist, is going to be rolling out the Megillah, big white piece of butcher paper, and she's going to be right there. That's actually her drawings, her drawing herself.
It's amazing.
Uh, and so she is going to be illustrating it just as it goes as we read it, and I'm excited. She's been really thinking about it and trying to figure out how do we do it in. She doesn't have a lot of time, so
Right.
she's
Because
got to
we have
get it
to do,
done
yeah.
quickly.
It'll
So
be
we've got a
funny.
couple of days.
You know, it'll be funny to see when we get to chapter 9 and the 10 sons of Haman, when you have to do those all in one breath. I hadn't thought about that till you just said that. That'll be fun to watch her see what she does with that.
Yeah, I think we're going to modify.
Amazing.
Well, yeah, do
Amazing.
put it up again. Throw it up again there. So yes, it's Monday, March 6th. And please RSVP by calling the synagogue or tsnd.org/event/Purim 2023. And hey, we are funding this so that you can come for dinner afterwards. Not anything fancy, but Purim pizza, salad, and hamantaschen for
So
five
Purim
bucks.
Suda.
Yeah, yeah, you got it.
Love
All
it.
right. Well, thank you, Rabbi David, and
Thank you, sir. We hope to see all of you there. Have a lovely Shabbat, everyone. Bye.